So we're on to the second part. I do realise that I say so a lot and okay. You're just gonna have to deal with it, I'm afraid. But I will try my best to not say it as much. um, we're gonna look a little bit about like why do we have pockets? Like why were they so important, and what can they tell us about a person from the past? And how do we even find out what someone kept in their pockets? Because I don't know how someone in 100 years would say what I kept in my pockets. But there's some really interesting sources. Um, so, pockets were especially important to people from the working class. Now, I love that I finally got to cover something that doesn't just talk about the upper class and rich people who could afford luxury items. Pockets were very important to the working class because if you are out working, you can't be carrying around a little bag. Like you are carrying around your life essentially, and this is because um, a long time ago, even today, actually, like I mean, I'm saying a long time ago, it still happens today, but um, maybe things are a little bit more secure now. If you were living in lodgings or a shared house, you would probably share in a room as well as like furniture in that space with other people that you maybe didn't know, um, maybe couldn't trust, and so um, especially for a woman, um, her private possessions, her personal possessions, things that were valuable to her, not just monetary value, but also sentimental value. Um, Pockets were perhaps the only safe place and private space that she would have had to keep those things. And because you could detach them and they were separate to your clothing, a lot of women apparently slept with them under their pillows to keep them safe while they're asleep in this shared space. Which we don't really think about it today because we have locks on the door, and it's quite unusual that you would be having to share a space. For the majority of people, I'm sure it still happens. Um, Maybe for more than the minority. Anyway, but it's rare that you would be sharing a space where you don't have somewhere secure and safe and private to store your belongings. Um, and how we know that women kept these things and what they kept in their pockets are, as I said before, when you have pickpockets and cut purses, when people's pockets have been stolen, they would file a report with the police, but they would, put an announcement in the paper. They would log it with police that these things had been stolen, because they were very important to them. And so court records and newspapers have been incredibly useful in showing historians, and fashion historians, social historians, what was kept in these pockets, because they can, in these adverts or in these police files and court findings, they have listed everything that was in them, from it being something very valuable to like money or jewelry, but also heirlooms and things that they've treasured, and like I said, sentimental value pieces. um you know Even things like needles and threads and bits of cotton and lace, or I think, is it maybe in the five? I think I think it's in that, where they mention like, women keeping vials of like tea and coffee and sugar and stuff in their pockets, and keeping them safe and keeping them on them at all times, because then they know where they are, and they can rely on that. So I find that really fascinating. What a weird place to find details about someone's life. Um, And as well, the other side of things was that, say, if you were a servant and you would have kept keys to the house on your person, and again, there's records of servants having keys to the house in their pockets, and for an employer and the house owner to trust you, a servant, with the keys to like their house and therefore their belongings really demonstrated how much they trusted you and how much they valued you. So that was like a point of pride, I imagine, for some people working in a household. The other side of this, which I haven't seen mentioned very much, but the other reason that I think maybe men and women's clothing splits in terms of pockets is that, again, sort of 1800s, 1900s, there was this real divide between men were allowed to be in the public sphere, they were allowed to be seen out and about in public, socialising with other men, and women were very much expected to be in the private sphere, stay at home. That's where you socialise. You can't be seen out because then you're a hussy. Gosh, hasn't it gone? It's gone really dark outside. Like some very dramatic shadows happening behind me. Whoops. Anyway, so in my mind, that again, the fact that men have pockets and men are out in public really signifies that they have places to be, things to do. They have to have stuff on them because they have things that they need on a daily basis when they're out and about. Whereas women, if you're just in the house, you don't need pockets because you're not going anywhere. All your stuff is at home and you're at home, so you don't need pockets, my love. So in my head, that's something that maybe helped this divide to persist. But it's worth pointing out that for working women and working girls, that was not the case because they were out, they weren't at home, they didn't have that luxury. So they, pockets had to be reintroduced to their clothes and their sort of fashions as much as they could keep up with that because of the practicality and the functionality of pockets for them in their daily lives. So I just find that really, really wonderful that maybe working women helped keep pockets in women's clothing. But you're looking at, yeah, anyway, I don't know what I was going to say then. Whatever, it can't have been interesting. I'm just checking in my notes so I didn't miss anything off then. But anyway, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm just going to go into, because I'm sure you all want to know what certain pockets are for. So I love, again, that pockets are, in terms of like just existing, they are unisex. Like okay, women's pockets are smaller, but generally like pockets are pockets. But the way they developed in menswear is really fascinating. Because there are different types of pockets and they signify whether an outfit is casual or formal or like luxurious or considered a little bit more casual and scruffy. And there are very specific pockets which have survived today just out of tradition, even though their original use, we don't use it for that anymore. So imagine like a man's tuxedo or very formal suit. You'll usually see a pocket sort of on the chest, which doesn't have a flap. Now these, I've heard them called welt pockets. They're also called jetted pockets. And these are like, I absolutely hate doing them if I'm making an item of clothing, because you've made this beautiful item and then you have to literally cut a slit in it. that slit is then obviously reinforced with other bits of fabric which make it really neat and keep it from just fraying, and you know, it's got a little pocket bag, so there is something there, but it's terrifying cutting into really nice fabric, because if you mess it up, that's it, you have to start all over again. Anyway, so I really hate doing them, but you know, they're a real skill to be able to do, and that's because they look so sleek, because they don't spoil the line of the jacket. You barely see them because they're done in the same fabric usually. So you'll have one sort of here, which now, you know, is usually for your pocket square, like, you know, a handkerchief or, you know, something very small. And then there's usually two sort of just under the waist, which can be slanted or not. And again, these are usually like well or jetted pockets, so it's the same thing where it's cut into the pocket, so into the jacket, and then reinforced. They might sometimes have a flap over, which was originally so that when you're out and about, stuff didn't fall out, or like, so whatever was in there was protected. And then when you got inside, you tucked that flap inside so it looked all smart again. We don't really do that anymore, but that's originally what you used to do. And then there is also, you sometimes get, and again, I think I've seen that this is to like create more, I think if like you have a long torso, it shortens it, maybe the other way around, another pocket a little bit above that, and that was literally a pocket for your train ticket, like a whole pocket just for train tickets, for the man on the go. So it was just really easy to access, and you didn't have to like fumble around or like look in your trouser pockets or whatever. You also, you tended to have, in a three-piece suit, on your waistcoat, you would also have a pocket on there. Hey, Lynn's dog. Oh, you can't see her. You might be able to see a wagging tail and hear her. Anyway, Mama's busy. And this pocket was for your fob watch or your pocket watch. I mean, basically anything. So I think I read somewhere, like anything that had the word pocket in front of it was to signify that it was a small version. So a pocketbook was a very small notebook. Your pocket watch was a watch that was small enough to like go off a chain and sit in this pocket that was specifically made to that size. And like you had coin pockets and, you know, all these kind of things. And my husband asked me to look into what the little pocket on a pair of jeans is for. Now, women's jeans tend not to have this, but men's pretty much always do. You've got your two normal pockets, hey babes, and then you have like a little pocket that's within that. And so I believe some people refer to it as a Johnny pocket. I always thought it was a coin pocket. It's not, it was a watch pocket. And I can't remember which article I saw it on, I'll find the picture, but they tested it, and yeah, it fits a pocket watch perfectly. It's not too tight, not too small. And that was specifically for cowboys, because, you know, if it was in, you know, they're not wearing waistcoats, probably not, and it's going to get all jiggled about and probably fall out. That pocket fitted your watch perfectly, and it didn't fall out, but you could easily get to it. So there you go, that's that one solved. But also, like I said, you will find that women's pockets are much smaller, don't fit as much in, and so women, either pockets became smaller to make women rely on other things like bags, or they became smaller because women used bags more. It's chicken or the egg, who knows? I still find it really, like, I cannot believe it in this day and age. Like, I bought a pair of jeans, they were fairly cheap and they're stretchy and blah blah blah, so they're not like proper denim jeans the way I would think of them. But I didn't even clock. They didn't have front pockets at all. They just had back ones. But also, I should point out that the other kind of pocket that is much less formal and considered much more casual is the patch pocket, and that is where a separate piece of fabric is stitched onto the outside of a garment. So sporting jackets, safari jackets, jean pockets, all that kind of thing, they're considered much more casual. And that's because then they can be made bigger, they're pleated, and you can put more stuff in, so they are bulkier and they don't look as sort of streamlined. They spoil the silhouette, basically. We're back to that. Yeah, so that was like a little run through the history of pockets. I hope you enjoyed it. It has gone so dark. I swear when I started it was sunny, so I look like I've got mood lighting on. I haven't. Anyway, have a fabulous rest of your day or evening whenever you're watching this. Remember to like, subscribe, recommend to your friends, and I will see you next month for another episode. Bye.